Hello mga kapuso, today we'll be talking about everything football, from her story as a football player to her role as a mental performance coach and now as a sports analyst on this episode of Game On the Podcast.
That's a hot question to ask. It's the most Filipino I've felt.
She is on the spot! This is the first time Miss Camille Rodriguez is left speechless.
What's up, sports fans? Welcome to Game On the Podcast, the first sports podcast of GMA, and this is brought to you by GMA Synergy, GMA Regional TV, and GMA Digilab. My name is Anton Rojas.
You can find us on GMA Sports and GMA News on Facebook and on YouTube, and also on Apple and on Spotify. I am Coach Hammer Martin Antonio.
And this is Martin Javier. Today's guest is a bronze medalist in the 31st Southeast Asian Games, a gold medalist in the 2022 AFF Women's Championship. She is a midfielder / striker. Maybe she'll correct us later. But she is also a mental performance coach, broadcast analyst, and is a member of the Kaya FC and the Philippine national team. The Filipinas! Let's welcome Miss Cam Rodriguez. Welcome to the pod.
Hi everyone. That was such a warm welcome. Good morning. I am your how many as guest today?
Okay, ba't ginanon mo siya?
Oo nga eh.
Fist
Hammer
bump, sanay
daw.
ako. Sanay ako na fist bump eh.
Dahil hammer. Okay, Cam, welcome to the pod. This is easy work, light work for Cam. Such a good commentator. I see your videos on IG. Ginagawa rin namin yun.
Yeah.
yung may camera dito.
Cam
Ayan.
gets it.
Yeah. Okay.
Bob Guerrero doesn't.
Shots fired up.
But he was included in one of my videos. I caught a small giggle nung when two goalkeepers go in one box, yun daw yung favorite moment niya pag football.
Lucky Bob.
Nakita mong kinilig si Bob G. All right. But Cam, thank you so much for joining us here. I know you have a busy schedule. You're doing a lot of football. You're still part of Kaya FC and you're in the pool for the national team. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. So, everything football. I've evolved to more roles as I played. You know, been playing the sport for 20 years, which is a very short time. And then now just evolving into other roles like commentating, performance coach.
Hold on, 2 decades. So when exactly did you start playing football? 2 decades? Okay, so what age did she begin?
Maybe you could guess.
Maybe. Hindi, kasi dito naman sa Pilipinas, may mga grassroots program tayo, maraming youth football programs. So maybe you started at around 5.
Wow, that's very generous, no?
Oh.
Hindi pa.
Hindi pa.
Later.
Later pa. 9. 8, 9. Hindi rin.
You're close.
Whoa! Higher? Lower?
Higher.
Higher?
Wow,
Whoa.
that's pretty late, ha? For today's standards, because ang dami na ngayong mga bata.
May mga 7.
As early as 5, bro.
May mga 7 and under na leagues. Mga 7-on-7 na leagues every summer. Yun.
Ikaw, 11, 12.
10 naman.
10
So
years
that's only
old.
very, very close. So, 5th grade, parang I was part of the first ever grade school varsity team pa, Miriam ako. So, that just tells you what it was like back then, di ba? Na hindi pa masyadong laganap yung mga women's football teams.
But Miriam, alam natin yung Miriam, reinforced yung mga sports teams niya. Like volleyball is good, women's basketball, women's football, softball. Okay. But starting that late, again, we consider it late kasi ang daming nagsisimula ng mas maaga. Diba? 4 or 5 years old, marami na nagfo-football sa Pilipinas. Did you have a hard time? Or tanong pala muna, was it your first sports venture? Or,
No, not at all.
What was your first sport?
My first sport was actually ice skating. So, gymnastics, ice skating.
So you got the
where did
footwork.
I did. And then eventually that evolved into taekwondo, swimming. So talagang sabi ng parents ko, sports for life. Go and explore. So, but my dad would beg to disagree because he's also a football player. So parang feel ko, even though he would allow me to go like, and support me, honestly, with my swim meets, my taekwondo bouts, lagi niya ako sasama sa mga football games niya. So parang slowly, doon yung emotional connection. But, it ended up na napa-football na ako Not because of him, but because of my brother. Pag uwi ng brother ko nun, may medal siya. Tapos sabi ko, may medal naman ako sa gymnastics, may medal naman ako sa swimming. Pero yun lang yung medal na parang sinelebrate as a family. Sabi ko, bakit parang... Bakit? So, okay, football na rin ako. That's the story of how I started.
Oh, shout out to her dad.
And her brother.
And her brother.
Yun yung tipping point. Yung introduction yun, dad. And then your brother was the tipping point.
Teka, saang sport ka muna tumagal bago ka nag-football? Yung talagang feel mo that time dito ko, pwede mag-flourish.
Taekwondo. So, di ba dati, may mga iilang sports ang during summer na may mga summer camps. Parang camp in our village. Tapos doon lang nagsimula. In-enroll ako, something to do in the summer, and then the rest was history. Support ng parents, and then, yeah, just the start of my life. Laging, whatever I try, my parents just support. So.
Your Wikipedia page says you were born in Zamboanga. But did you grow up there?
Yes, I did.
Ah,
Do you know Chabacano?
So
Yeah, see?
may ice skating doon?
Sorry, the ice skating was already here when I moved in Manila.
Okay,
So I moved when I was 7. So all those sports compressed in like 3 years.
Okay, so when from the time that you were in Zamboanga, what sports were you into there? And is football a hotbed? Is Zamboanga a football hotbed?
It is, especially now. Pero growing up in Zamboanga, yung pinaka-sports ko na kalaro ko yung mga pinsan ko. That's it. Yeah. Typical.
So sa Manila na yung more serious level. Okay.
Yes.
Pero pag nag-enter ka kasi ng football, 10 years old, tapos ang motivation mo ay dahil nag-uwi ng medal yung kapatid ko. Tapos ano yun? Was that an impulse decision? And was that your first time also trying out football? Impulse yun na, okay, I want to try that one out. I want to get celebrated as well with a medal. Was it an impulsive decision from you?
I think it was years in the making. Thanks, Dad.
Years in the making.
I think that was just tipping point. But I think what was different was that it's my first team sport. So all of my previous sports, puro individual. So first time when I tried and enrolled in AFC patawag natin na yung football center. Tapos tinay ko maglaro ng football, tapos may mga kasama ko. Boys pa nga kasama ko nun eh. I enjoyed it. Tapos, and then it's just like one module after another, and I didn't turn back since. So, yeah, typical story of our athlete life.
But ano mo, yung sports that she tried, I mean, the lower body dominant, figure skating,
Oo nga eh.
taekwondo. Kaya yung siguro it's the feet and eye coordination. It helps a lot din.
Ba't di ka nag-basketball?
Wala, football eh.
Football talaga.
talaga.
Okay. So, you got started in Ateneo. You were with Miriam. Eventually, nung bata ka ba, na-envision mo yung sarili mo na, I could actually play for Ateneo in the future. The blue and white. Was it your preference as well, school preference, at that stage, at that point?
My Miss Universe answer is no. But everyone else would say, hindi, Cam's Ateneo from the start. Because come from a family of Atenistas. So my dad studied Ateneo de Zamboanga, brother.
Sabi, pero parang leaning no ka eh. Ano muna yung school na
try.
gusto mo dapat?
Actually, Ateneo UP. Kasi dahil ko.
The top 2 programs sa women's talaga.
Okay, so we're gonna get to the national team in a bit, but at what point in your life did you sort of realize that, hey, I can represent flag and country one day? Was this during your time in Ateneo and winning like best striker, being part of the mythical 11? At what point did you say to yourself, na kaya ko to?
So if I started playing football at 10, I started representing the country mga 12. Pero hindi pa national team. Ano pa siya?
Club teams.
Club team level. Tapos magka-compete ka sa Coffee Cup. Mga paganon. So Denmark Cup and Norway Cup noon. So it was so fun kasi finally you get to, well, one, you get to fly with friends, and then you get to meet all of these new people who play the sport, and 12-year-old Filipinos don't look like 12-year-old Danish people. So that in itself was so fun. And then from there, I guess my performance in Miriam throughout the RIFA tournaments, medyo doon ako na-discover ng national team. So I started playing sa national team when I was 14. Tapos from there, again, typical start. It was just with friends. our first tournament was in Thailand, and I was like, "Whoa, this is so cool! I'm playing with Thai people." They were sort of beating our butts back then, but it was fun. So that's what stood out. Then at 16, from the youth national team, senior national team na ako. So baby pa ako nun. I was with Ina Palacios, and my ates were the greats, like Mariel Benitez, Samantha Nieras, Tasha Alquiros. So just really got into the system, and when I think about when I started, it was really just fun and learning.
So you're used to international competition because you've been competing internationally since 14 years old.
Yes.
So you're not intimidated anymore. Like when you go to another country, because usually that's the case, right? Local competition, you can you can take on the players here. You're confident with your skills, but you don't know what level they compete in Thailand, in Europe now. But you're because you've been at it since 14 years old, you're not intimidated anymore.
I wouldn't say I'm not intimidated, but I'm less nervous now. I'm more prepared. Parang I know what it's like, so parang nerves are now welcome. So that's a psych in me. Na I know na when I start getting nervous, it means just like I care and I get to channel it somewhere else and into, my why and my fuel.
Let's go first through your career in Ateneo.
Sige.
Okay, do you have unfinished business in Ateneo? No, you had a stellar
Kaya ka
career.
bumalik.
Kaya ka bumalik. No, you had a stellar career. You won, as Anton mentioned, best striker. I think you won third in consecutive seasons as well. I think doon na papunta yung tanong ko. Because you consider yourself as one of the best. You were in the national team since 14. Did you want to win a championship?
Oh, 100%.
Oh.
100%.
Sino yung champs nung time na yan?
Yung mga Lasal at Lasal FEU. So they are the powerhouses. And on my last year, to UP naman, they had their golden spell, championship run sila. But we were always just so close. So yung joke sa amin sa Ateneo team, kami, four-peat na bronze medalist. So wag niyo na tanong ko anong color ng medal, pero four-peat kami nun.
Okay. Pero ano rin yun, okay rin yun. At least podium. Pero syempre, as a competitor, mas gusto mo, you aim for more. Okay. So, you've been part of the national pool. This is now the senior team. Senior? Tama ba? Ganun ba yun? Yeah, senior team. For how long now?
Total of maybe 14 years. I took a break in college, but after I graduated, went straight back into national team. Tapos, grateful enough to be in that team that won the World Cup. So,
how do you like that?
rather qualifying to the World Cup. Shooting for the stars ako dun.
By the way, won also against New Zealand.
Yes.
Very
historic.
On their home floor.
Yes.
By the way,
in our
home
first
pitch.
World Cup.
In your first World Cup. How was it? What was the vibe when you went to New Zealand?
Actually, I was not part of the final roster of the World Cup. So I was with the team for 2 years, qualifying them into the World Cup, helping them prepare. But in every athlete's life, you experience that, diba? You're not you don't get to dream, which is to play in the World Cup. That was mine. But I took on this new role. Actually, that win, or the first two games, so it was versus Switzerland the first game, and then versus New Zealand the second game. Both times I was the host of the watch party. Oh! So that was my first introduction to hosting. But before that, it's a whole other story, but it really took a lot, diba? Parang felt a lot of shame, I guess, diba? Getting cut, not getting your dreams, but somehow I was able to gather strength na, okay, if I'm not able to do this, what can I do for my country? Tapos biglang, okay, PFF says, do you want to host? And to me, always when it's about the country, it's an easy yes. So.
Galing. So that's sort of what opened the door to what you're doing right now, which is sports commentary as well.
So it was just
100%.
a redirection for you.
For sure.
Hold on. Okay, before we let go of the World Cup team, because right now, if you look at the makeup of the Filipinas team, there are a lot of international players, half Filipinos playing for the team. What are your thoughts on that? Because I know FIFA is more loose with the rules there on basta meron ka lang heritage na you're Filipino, you can actually be part of the national team. What are your thoughts on that? And especially, this is an interesting perspective because this is coming from a player who, I don't want to emphasize it, who
Homegrown.
got cut just right before the big stage,
Final
the
cut.
big event.
Final cut.
yeah.
That's a hot question to ask. Heard it here first. No. Well, first of all, FIFA actually is pretty strict with nationalities. The process actually of getting the Philippine passport takes a long time, arduous process. So that's really your main qualifier into playing for the team. Dapat mapoprove mo na may dugo kang Pilipino and documented siya. So if, for example, okay, I'll get too technical, but you just really need to have your passport. So to do that, your parents have to have a passport too. If they don't, they have to get it. If not, they have to go even down the line further. So it really is a whole process. But to answer your question,
Mahirap to. Mahirap to. She is on the spot. I think this is the first time
Let somebody ask her that.
that Miss Camille Rodriguez is left speechless with a question thrown at her. Okay, go ahead.
so for me, how I feel about it is it really is down to like how you show up as a Filipino. Very, to me, the document side, what you need to play for a team is your Philippine passport. But to me, as a player, as a teammate, what I need to see from you is that you have a Filipino heart. And that means getting to know the language, knowing the anthem, getting to understand the value of why we do things, bakit tayo nagpopo-opo, diba? Yung mga small nuances that really make up part of our culture. Because if we don't know all those nuances, then what are we even representing? So I think I've held that very unique role as that, homegrown player in the national team na parang old guard. Na, okay, there are newcomers here, but this is how we do it, diba? Na this is what we stand for. So,
Culture setter.
yeah. So, very, very flexible in that role. So, they like my Miss Universe answer.
Okay, love it. I love how
I'm smiling because you said old guard, referring to yourself. Yet earlier you mentioned the greats Mariel Benitez and Natasha
Shout out to
Altiros,
Mariel,
who's our friends also, and we've worked with them also as commentators for football. But I'm gonna put some ice on Martin Javier's boiling hot question. Yes, you got caught, but you were part of history forever because you were part of the team that qualified for the World Cup. And diba, there was a time na yung Philippine Azkal, sobrang laki ng hype sa kanila. But, with all due respect to them, hindi pa rin tayo umaabot sa World Cup. But it was the Filipinas who made it to the World Cup. And I saw one of your posts on Instagram sa India. You had the flag, and it's actually on a book, Fearless Filipinas 2.
Yeah.
Would you say that was your crowning moment in your football career, being able to represent the country in India, and then you have the flag on your back?
For sure, and that moment actually when we took that photo was the moment after we qualified for the World Cup. So that was the really long shootout game versus Chinese Taipei, and actually a lot of our teammates then post. Actually, ako ngayon taga-picture nun eh. But it was a crowning moment in a sense na like we were actually like we put a stamp. Like this is what we were able to do here. We are in this moment, present, Philippine flag. We knew what it meant. So, yeah, very much a proud moment.
Was that the most nervous you've ever been in football watching that shootout?
Actually, for some reason, we entered that game. I entered that game believing with my whole heart that we were going to qualify. But the story of the game was something different, right? It was 1-1 at the end of 90 minutes. And after additional 30 more minutes, it was still at 1-1. And then we had a regular shootout. It was one of those games na parang, shucks, okay, parang kala ko we're in it because we scored first. Yeah. And then they scored a banger in response, which was a really good goal. And the story of that shootout was that we actually were so close to missing out on the slot because we missed a goal or we missed a shot. And when that happens, the other team's at an advantage. Pero, siguro laki lang talaga ng tiwala ko sa team kasi kahit na na-miss ng isang teammate yung goal na yun, sabi ko, hindi, I refuse to believe we're not gonna qualify. And then again, another missed shot. And then, diba, how that played out was that two of the Chinese Taipei players also missed their shot, and then our keeper was able to make that shot. So it really was like just really belief. That's the value I had.
Okay, but you made history. As a team, you made history. And then, I want to know, what was the vibe during that winning moment? What was the whole vibe? Because I can't imagine, kasi ang laking bagay niyan para sa Pilipinas. Pinakaunang football team natin, male, female, to ever qualify in a World Cup. That's one of the biggest moments, not just in football, Philippine football history, but in Philippine sports.
It was huge, 100%. We knew as a team what was on the line even before entering the Asian Cup, the whole tournament. But as the games went on, parang mas lumalaki-laki yung pressure na parang, it matters. Each game matters talaga. But especially that game sa Chinese Taipei, it was a semifinals game, a quarterfinals game. So whoever wins, really automatic slot. Yeah. So we entered that game knowing what was on the line, but it panned out in the longest possible fashion, showing our adversity as Filipinas. So that moment when my teammate finally hit that winning goal that sent us to the World Cup, Serena Balden, it was just like a release of air and an exhale. We're like, wow, finally. So we all run together and parang bata. We just really felt so happy. Like talagang pure joy.
As an athlete, yun yung mga moments na talagang, that you look forward to. Diba? Yung mga moments na you wanna be part of. Nerve-wracking match, went to up until the very end before, things got decided. Okay. So,
You mentioned Serena Balden.
Serena Balden with the header! Okay.
So if you're a football casual like myself, it's been a while since I've commentated on a football match, and I only ever commentated on the UAAP level. If you're doing your research, you're gonna see her name all over the place. The goals, the time of the goal. Where would you rank her? Because I'm curious. I see this question on X, formerly Twitter, all the time. Like in basketball terms, who is Serena Balden? Like is she like one of the GOATs now because of that goal and all the other goals that she's scored for the Philippines?
I mean, definitely, she's now the leading, scorer for the country. So she's up there. What's funny is that, for everyone else, she's like this really cool person, a lot of cool accomplishments. But to me, she's just another teammate that parang ang hirap i-separate. So whenever people say, oh, she's the GOAT, you're just like, yeah, she is. But she's also my friend, and I know how she's like off the field. So, which makes it more meaningful. And she is, people see her as like game mode, diba? Talagang game face. But she's actually so opposite off the field. Talagang kengkoy, nakikisabay ng trip. So, masaya na teammate, siya yun.
She has
so,
that switch. If it's
meron siya.
kill time.
Oo. So, energizer, I think, for both roles, on and off.
Shoutout din kay Sarah Egesvik with all her assists to Serena Balden. O, diba?
She's like the crush ng bayan, di ba? Sarah, right?
She is.
Talking about switches, she's that type na parang off the field, she's very quiet, and then timid. Tapos on the field, parang first to press. As in, talagang very body, very...
She's aggressive.
Aggressive. She has to be.
She's an enforcer.
She's an enforcer. Okay. So, Cam, in Ateneo, what course did you take?
Psychology.
You took up psych. And then naturally, one of the roles that you found in football was mental performance coach. Dati wala to eh. Oh, dati wala to. Sige, coach.
Well, kasi mas maraming distractions ngayon. I'm curious when it comes to mental prep, diba? Was the catalyst for you the cut in the... Kasi you said that you were expecting that you would be playing, and then given a different opportunity to host. And then, coming from you, the conversations that you were having on the preparation side, was it a catalyst for you to go into mental coaching? Kasi it's very difficult for athletes to communicate with other athletes on the mental side.
Right. I think definitely my journey has helped me form into the mental performance coach I am today. But my catalyst actually was my experience with the Filipinas, because we actually worked with a mental performance coach as well. So earlier on, when we were preparing for qualifying for the World Cup, we had a mental performance coach that was with us. Actually, she is my mentor, and she actually recently passed away this year. But she's the reason why I even pursued mental, like sports psychology, because of how it changed my life. Na parang, kung hindi ko siguro siya katrabaho those 2 years, I would not be strong enough.
It's the most overlooked facet of being an athlete. Kasi ako, I'm more on the physical side. So a lot of limitations of athletes are limited by their minds. And once you get into that scope of, alam niyo yung movie, Clear the Mechanism. Diba? It's for love of the game. Whenever Billy would be throwing that pitch, he would always say, clear the mechanism. It's the same thing as mental coaching, that you need to be never too high, never too low. Always performing at that level, no matter what, as what Cam said, is happening outside. The things that you're controlling should always be at a homeostasis. Laging dire-diretso lang siya. Plain lang.
So, Cam, for the non-believers, kasi siyempre there's a whole generation who doesn't believe in like mental coaching. Di kaya niyan, malagpasan yan. Especially with, in sports, with athletes na talagang toughness is being
Ang
promoted.
qualifier is the older generation.
Yun.
Older generation.
Okay. Ayoko na mag-specify, pero there's a there are people who are still non-believers. Can you shed some light on this? How important is it now to have a mental performance coach? And can you give us an instance or like a situation, kunwari na, ito, gantong klaseng sitwasyon, kailangan namin pumasok. We need to intervene, talk to the player, and, try to set him or her straight.
I think for the non-believers, believe. Simple lang eh.
That I like.
Sige, kunin mo yung mic, laglag mo, mic drop, okay.
Mic drop. Believe. And yung instance na talagang kinukuha ko, or parang a great testament of this, and her achievement is a testament to what the power of mental performance. It's really just our very own first gold Olympic medalist, diba?
With Doc Karen.
Yes. Our Hideline Diaz, she won her gold medal in her very long and
Arduous build-up.
I was gonna say arduous, very arduous build-up. Worked with a mental performance, sports psychologist, Doc Karen Trinidad. So that in itself, like, and she believes kasi na yung athlete kasi hindi lang siya naglalaro, di ba? Kailangan nakabantay din yung nutrition side, yung sports psych side, yung strength and conditioning. So all these little things that are often overlooked by, our dinosaurs in the sports world right now. So.
Bakit ako, I could double down because I was there when Heidelin was preparing. I was part of that organization that was helping her. Doc Karen was one of the heads. Grouped sila sa MSAS and PSC. And there was this instance that Heidelin was really losing confidence. I know you know this story. And Doc Karen had one thing to tell her. Mag-ayos ka. That's why she always has a lipstick with her. Diba? When she performs, she would always wear those pink lipstick. And Heidelin knows this because it was something that she can bank on na parang, hindi, kailangan to. Ito yung parang, this is my comfort zone. This is something that would help me prepare and take my mind off things. And lo and behold, that was the goal. More than the nutrition, more than the strength and conditioning. Kasi pare-parehas yan ang ginagawa eh. How can you get into that mental flow state that you can perform at an optimum level?
I think Coach Hammer also wanted to establish that he's not a dinosaur.
No, I am a Neanderthal. And I am proud of that.
But a progressive dinosaur.
Don't hit back.
He's starting to believe.
Yes.
I would consider Neanderthal a downgrade from dinosaur. Okay. Since
Hindi, yun kasi yung mga tight end eh. Neanderthals daw sila. All they do is hit.
Since Martin mentioned the non-believers, I think lately we've been in a believer era of sports. Like Meralco just won their first PBA championship, and then Chris Newsome, he he like kind of like what Shaquille O'Neal did. Can you dig it? Sabi niya sa crowd, do you believe? And in Boston, they won another championship after so many years that anything is possible.
You don't acknowledge that.
Oo nga pala, mga Laker boys pala nandito. Okay, and then of course, the Filipinas. I asked you about your crowning moment in your career. I want to ask you now about winning the first gold medal in the history of Philippine football. And that happened here in our country. How good did it feel to experience that? Like more than 8,000 Filipinos cheering for you guys and the commentators going crazy as well, going viral. How did it feel for you personally to live through that era of believing?
Wow. It's the most Filipino I felt, honestly. Kasi usually ako lumaki ako sa Philippine grassroots system. So 20 years in the game, maybe 18 during that time. But we never had a crowd like that. And usually we played abroad. And when we play abroad, siguro yung mga nahahatak namin, yung mga OFW, yung mga nasa embassy, so and the parents of my teammates, so at best 20, diba? 30. But it was such a different story here in the AFF because it was played here at home during the unique time when we just qualified for the World Cup. We had the bronze medal in the SEA Games, and then we were continuing our preparation to the actual World Cup. So it was in the unique point in our journey as a team that we get to share it with, our countrymen.
Sweet spot.
So it was such a good moment because we were not only playing at home, but I was playing in front of my friends. I was playing in front of my family, my dad who brought me here, my sisters who also play football. So it was such a meaningful moment for me. And honestly, when I think about top moments of my life, it was that gold medal match, running around the field with a flag and my teammates, and everyone's just like, cheering you on, and you see familiar faces, and that's not something every day you could experience at home, let alone as a footballer.
How was your dad after winning that goal? I'm just wondering, how did he take it, and how proud was he of you?
Very proud. There's this one I posted this on my Instagram. It's one of my pinned posts, no, na I'm holding the flag and I'm like looking to the crowd. Favorite moment, because that was actually the moment when I was looking at my dad. And he was probably crying, but he had the typical soccer dad. Nakaganon. Very stage dad na just taking photos of me and just so proud. And shout out to him because the story for AFF actually, diba, I hyped it up to be such a good, unique moment in our history. But our very first game, we started at, ilan lang pumunta? 1,000, 2,000? Di abot 2,000 nun. And that was, a series of 6-7 games, eliminations. And then the first game was like, ay, ito lang. But again, it was a weekday, so different factors. So what was cool was that the Filipino community made ways to make the games more accessible. So we had alumni groups, especially shout out to my dad, yung mga titos, titas, bumibili sila in bulk ng tickets sa AFF championships. Tapos binibigay nila sa mga teams na hindi masyadong nakaka-afford. Kasi again, there's a price tag to watching. That's another story about like accessibility, right? But talagang meaningful yung AFF championships kasi lumabas yung spirit ng bayanihan ng Pilipino na bibili ng mga tickets nito, tapos bibigay nila, tapos slowly, game per game, the numbers increased. So from 1,000, it became 2,000, 3,000, till that semi-final match versus the defending champions, Vietnam, never won against them.
Very good football country.
They are a big football superpower. They're ranked higher than us now, still, even after our stint. No? So that's how much of a superpower they are. But we beat them 4-0 in that match. And everyone was like, what? Oh my gosh, our reaction in the finals.
This is legit.
So it's safe to say that that medal was celebrated. For sure. Celebrate na yun.
For sure.
So you mentioned earlier, 2000, when you start football? 2005?
2005, yeah.
Okay, 2005. You mentioned back then, hindi pa masyado celebrated yung women's sports. You were up against male football players when you were starting out. Now, 20 years later, almost 20 years later, women's football is being celebrated here in the country. Just looking back, how do you feel about the rise of women's sports, the rise of women's football here in the country, and how do you feel now that, you know, little girls are actually aspiring to be football players one day?
I'm just so grateful to be part of the rise and to have played a part in this rise. And again, sa Filipinas, ayaw lang namin na isang World Cup. Sabi namin, pagka-qualify namin dito, hindi, ito dapat standard. At hindi lang dapat sa amin ng mga seniors, mga ates. Dapat all throughout, di ba? Sa youth, sa men's. And it's not something, di ba, even if we are advocating for women's football, it's not just about women's. We want to share it. We want to empower other female sports because, you know, that's the best kind of celebration, di ba? For something so historic like the World Cup and winning gold at home, that you get to actually share it with more generations to come. And, you know, that's one of my very close purposes in life, and has helped me with all these roles that I am taking.
Elevate the culture of everyone.
So for you, how do you advise these young athletes?
Oh, hindi pa kami tapos mga kapuso. Part 1 pa lang yan ang ating kwentuhan with Cam. Next week, it will be a meaningful discussion about Cam being a mental performance coach.
Narrative na, instead of proving them wrong, prove yourselves right.
And some interesting stories about her new role as a sports commentator.
I'm itching to ask this question. Do you have any horror stories about like working with certain commentators?
No name dropping. Don't worry.
We'd like to encourage everybody to comment, like and subscribe GMA Sports PH on YouTube, and you can listen to us wherever you go. If you're on the go, check it out on Spotify. Tap in as well. My name is Anton Rojas.
And of course, also support the other podcasts of GMA. You can find it on GMA News, GMA Sports PH, on Spotify, and on Apple. I am Coach Hammer Martin Antonio.
And this has been Martin Javier saying thank you for watching.
Game on the podcast.